I'm deeply curious to hear your thoughts on the Nvidia AMD agreements. But this 90-day extension, is this the right thing right now?
Well, I think it's yet another extension that causes more uncertainty about what's going to happen going forward. It hurts our small businesses. I've talked to businesses on the phone repeatedly who are pausing their hiring, pausing their investment, and basically, starting to lay people off because they don't know what the future holds. And so these infinite kind of extensions without any resolution, especially with the blanket tariffs, causes high prices, makes things unaffordable, and stalls economic growth.
Well, you go with another 90 days here, Congressman. Will that be enough time to generate a deal?
I don't know. I think that President Trump right now is trying to curry favor with Xi Jinping. He's trying to bring him to the negotiating table or do something, and we can't really tell what it is that's actually going on. But what we do know is that he's hiking tariffs in a blanket tariffs on our partners and friends and allies, driving them further away, even at the same time that we need their assistance in curbing economic aggression by the Chinese Communist Party in terms of its trade practices. And so I'm deeply concerned about the state of affairs right now.
Well, we know that China is going to be able to buy some high-end AI chips, not the highest, to be clear, the H20 chips from Nvidia and a similar component from AMD. What is new, however, is that the two companies I just mentioned, Nvidia and AMD, are going to be giving some of the proceeds to the U.S. government. President Trump earlier today talked about this negotiated deal with Nvidia's CEO Jensen Huang that would give the 15% of revenues from China's AI chip sales. AMD apparently is going to be working under a similar arrangement. Listen to what President Trump said earlier.
I deal with Jensen, who's a great guy, and Nvidia. The chip that we're talking about, the H20, it's an old chip. I said, listen, I want 20% if I'm going to approve this for you, for the country. He said, would you make it 15? So we negotiate a little deal. On the Blackwell, I think he's coming to see me again about that. But that will be a unenhanced version of the big one.
We can talk about Blackwell in a moment, Congressman, because that would be a pretty major development. But just the H20 chip was off limits to China only weeks ago on national security grounds. The export controls were lifted after Jensen Huang met with Donald Trump. Now 15% of their sales will be going to the United States government. I'm trying to get my head around this because it appears unprecedented. Did Donald Trump just declare the national security of the United States has a price?
Yeah, he declared our national securities for sale. It's a disastrous dereliction of duty. You know, the first thing that the commander-in-chief and the president needs to do is to protect our country. And so when he basically says that our national securities for sale, that our crown jewels can be obtained through some kind of revenue sharing agreement with the United States government, that is a horrible sign to our adversaries. What are we going to do next? Sell aircraft carriers to the Chinese and the government takes a 20% cut? This is horrible. We should not be engaged in the sale of these H20 chips to the CCP. And the fact that he would even broach the topic of these Blackwell processors potentially being for sale to the Chinese means that they're salivating at the prospect of basically taking those chips, inserting them into their military systems, which would be used against us and our allies, friends, and partners in the Indo-Pacific, and then also used against various minorities in perpetration of human rights abuses. So this is a really, really dark day for our national security.
Wow. Well, do you know about this? Had you heard about the Blackwell, Congressman? Is Nvidia working on a China-friendly version?
I don't know about this, and I think that there's going to be a lot of head scratching on Capitol Hill. I hope that my friends on the other side of the aisle are also as disturbed as I am. But we will introduce legislation at this point to require congressional approval of the sale of these highest end chips or high end chips to China, because quite frankly, the White House is not looking out for our best interests at this point as a country.
So have you written that bill, and would you get Republicans to sign on to it?
I would do everything in my power to get Republicans and Democrats to join this bill. We must say with one voice that our national security comes first. That's the purpose of export controls. They are not meant to somehow be used to bargain for other trade concessions. And yet we're now sending a signal to the Chinese that that's exactly what those export controls are subject to. And so I'm very, very concerned. Again, I hope that my Republican friends can prevail upon the White House to change course. But regardless, I think it's time to introduce legislation for congressional approval before these types of chips are sold going forward.
Will you file that bill when you get back to town?
Yeah, if not sooner.